This is the Real Estate Investing Abundance Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. I just want to take a moment to introduce you to our company, Steed Talker Capital. Steed Talker Capital is a real estate investment firm. If you'd like to learn more about real estate investing, head over to our website, steedtalker.com. And while you're there, take a moment to get your one-page guide to the 10 steps to passive real estate investing. Downloading this PDF will also enroll you in our Enlightened Investor Circle, and by enrolling in the Enlightened Investor Circle, you'll be the first to know about any new investment opportunities that we are getting involved with. Look forward to hearing from you. Enjoy today's show. Hello, enlightened investors, and welcome back to Real Estate Investing Abundance. I'm your host, Dr. Allen Lomax. It is truly a pleasure to be back with you again today. We're going to take a look at RV investing, a slightly undiscovered gem. Paul Moore is a returning guest to Real Estate Investing Abundance. Paul has launched multiple investment and development companies. He has completed over 100 commercial and residential investment projects. He has appeared on HGTV, contributed to Fox Business, The Real Estate Guys Radio, and a regular contributor to BiggerPockets. He is the co-host of the wealth building podcast, How to Lose Money. Paul is the author of 2 publications, Storing Up Profits, Capitalizing on America's Obsession with Stuff by Investing in Self-Storage, and The Perfect Investment, Create Enduring Wealth from the Historic Shift to Multifamily Housing. Paul is the founder and managing partner of Wellings Capital, a real estate private equity firm.
Alan, it's great to be here again. Thank you so much. Yeah, my company, we had started off in syndicating, we actually did a ground up multifamily development or 2 in North Dakota years ago.
Wow.
Then we were trying to be a multifamily syndicator. We found out it got awfully overheated, and the perfect investment isn't perfect if you've got to overpay to get it. And so we developed a fund, and now we're on our 6th fund where we invest in a variety of asset types, including self-storage, mobile home parks, a little multifamily, outdoor shopping centers, light industrial. And we always wanted to bring on RV parks, but we couldn't find a great operating partner. Well, we finally did, and we learned a lot in that process. I'll tell you that RV parks have been one of the hot commodities since COVID. Mm-hmm. RV ownership had already risen since 2001 to 2020. In those 19 years, it had already gone up 62%. 11 million plus people had RVs when COVID hit, and about 9.6 million more people say they want to buy one in the next, half a decade. Mm-hmm. That's going to put, just that alone would put incredible strain on RV parks. About 26% of the RV campers in 2020 were first-time RVers. And so This has just put incredible pressure on the business. And I'm going to get into another reason or 2 that this is a really special, unique time to invest in RV parks in a little bit. But I wanted to set the stage with a few of those statistics. I will tell you that there are about 9,000 RV parks in the U.S., and they're either typically owned by institutional investors or, on the other end of the spectrum, a lot of mom and pops that have 1 or 2 parks typically. So that obviously you can kind of see there provides an opportunity for somebody who's a great operator to come in, acquire these mom and pops, upgrade them, maybe put them together in a portfolio, and perhaps sell them to one of these institutionals. That would be one strategy, at least.
So there's just the extremes of that, either institutional or the mom and pop. Do you know the percentages on that in terms of what percentage of that 9,000 are mom and pop?
I don't. I had heard some numbers, but I don't think I should quote them since I don't have the exact the source on those, but it's very high.
Yeah, I would think it is. I mean, because I would suspect the institutional investors are going to the national brands, and there just aren't that many national brands around
Right.
there. Hardly run into them when you're out on the roads there. Why did your firm decide at this point in time to go from multifamily mobile home parks to specifically focusing on RV parks?
Yeah, so we're adding RV parks to the mix. Our goal is to provide our investors with a diversified portfolio. And one thing we love about RV parks is the Airbnb model.
Hmm.
So I hadn't really heard about this till a couple of years ago, but I wanted to go out RV camping. I had stayed in an RV while I worked in North Dakota building our multifamily property there, but it was actually in someone's backyard.
Mm.
So it wasn't a vacation. And I've thought about it for years, but I thought, man, what if I'm driving it down the road and I get in a wreck? Or what if
Hmm.
it breaks down? Or what about the gas mileage? What about insurance? Can I even get insurance? Like how would I just had all these questions. Well, I found out that you can actually not only rent an RV, you can actually get it set up for you at a campground. And so there's some sites out there like RV Share and Outdoorsy that have thousands and thousands of RVs you can rent.
Hmm.
And I can pick the style of RV I want. I can have it actually set up at the location I want. Of course, there's a fee for that. I can choose to drive it myself if I want to. And it includes, they have insurance coverage, they have roadside assistance, they take care of servicing it. It's a great deal. So if you think about the average RV, probably from what I've heard, sits, idle for 49 to 50 weeks a year.
Hmm.
But now anybody who wants to can turn their RV into a rolling rental unit.
Hmm.
And I know somebody, for example, in Colorado who bought an $80,000 RV. And in the next 6 months during the season, she rented it out and made 40,000 net profit on that RV renting it out in Colorado. So
Wow.
that can be a business in itself, and I think that could be a pretty good business. I heard of
Hmm.
somebody who bought 5 to lease them out. But what excites me about that is that it's putting significant additional pressure on RV
Hmm.
parks
Right.
because obviously people want to have a place to go. And so these parks, that you can't build a RV park overnight, and these RV parks have incredible pressure, and that makes me kind of sad for these people who buy an RV and then they say, oh, it takes me now a year, sometimes more than a year, to get a reservation at a park I want to
Wow.
go.
Wow.
That's sad, but I mean, it's putting great pressure on the parks that are out there. The other thing that I think is interesting, Alan, is, it's a first in world history. I mean, I can confidently say it's a first, and that is the fact that there's this stay at home, work from home movement. I
Hmm.
mean, until COVID really proved it. Okay, so there was a huge increase in people working from home from 2010 to 2020.
Hmm.
But after COVID hit, people realized, oh, well, I mean, not only can I theoretically work occasionally from home, I can completely work from home. And statistics on people who work at home now are pretty staggering. I could go over those, but the point, I think we all know this. The point is, a lot of those people had during COVID they saw their life flash before them. They saw friends either pass away or they saw all kinds of bad things, and they also realized, oh, gosh, maybe I'm not the father I should have been. Maybe I'm a workaholic. I had to
Hmm.
admit that myself. Maybe I need to spend more time with my family. Oh, and now I found out I can work remotely. So that's part of the driver for this RV
Hmm.
mania, as you'll call it, as I'd call it. So you got the work at home revolution, you got the Airbnb model, the rental model, and you've got all kinds of people, some people who are retiring and, buying RVs. So you've got all this converging at once, putting pressure on a limited number of RV parks. It's pretty powerful time to be in this business.
Well, that sounds amazing and all of that. I had never heard of the Airbnb concept in terms of RVs. That's interesting to me. So, are they actually going through Airbnb, or is there another organization that is facilitating this concept?
I think I did hear that Airbnb has a branch to do this, but they're generally going through RV Share, Outdoorsy, and I think one other website. So those are the specialists in the RV realm right now.
And are they getting their insurance coverage through these sources as well? So
Yeah, that's what I understand, that they've got insurance coverage available as well. There's also a company called Wheelbase I forgot to mention, and Wheelbase is the one who will actually go out. They'll do the maintenance. They'll set it up for you on location. I mean, I don't want to set it up because I don't know what I'm doing, and I might mess up the sewage or something nasty like that. But having someone set it up for me and just driving, let's say I'm in Atlanta and I want to drive to Leesburg, Alabama. Well, they have a great RV park. At least I think it's great. We invested in it. And that's about a 2-hour drive. I can drive there after work on Friday, have it set up, and enjoy the weekend.
Yeah. Well, fascinating. I had heard that or read somewhere that typically the RV demographic has always been retired people, but that demographic since COVID essentially has dramatically shifted to 30 to 35-year-olds with children. And one of the reasons you mentioned, of course, is that people are able to work from home. But another driver of that is the fact that it's vastly cheaper to take your family on an RV trip than it is to drive across the country and rent a motel room every night. So that is one of the other drivers that seems to be behind this.
Yeah, that's true. It's a study said it's 47% cheaper than a car hotel vacation and 62% cheaper than a comparable air hotel vacation. So pretty powerful.
Enlightened investors, if you haven't done so already, be sure and click that like button and also click that share so others can take advantage of the content. And finally, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single one of our upcoming episodes. And then, of course, the other thing is oftentimes these RV parks are in a much more scenic location than most hotels are, which are generally in commercial areas. So
right. Yeah, that's true.
That provides another plus there. So these are wonderful, wonderful things to look at. You did mention the gas. They take a lot of gas, but from what you're telling me, that use of the gas is compensated with the reduction in hotel costs and restaurants and so on and so forth.
Alan, I was shocked. So maybe it's my fault for buying a Toyota Sequoia. I mean, they last a long time, but my Toyota Sequoia gets 12 miles a gallon in town and 17 or so on the road. A Class A motorhome gets about the same, actually a little less. It gets 7 to 13 miles per gallon. Class B, though, gets much better than my Sequoia, 18 to 25 miles per gallon. Wow. And a Class C gets almost exactly the same as my Sequoia. Class C gets 14 to 18 miles per gallon. So it's not as bad as I thought.
Well, yeah, no, I thought it was probably down in the 3 to 5 gallons.
So did I. I always thought that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, interesting. Well, you just talked about A, B, and C. I think probably most of us not familiar with RV don't really know what designates an A, B, and C class RV.
Yeah. I do not have that right in front of me. If I recall, though, the big Winnebago, like my neighbor to the left here, that's a Class A. I think Class B is more of like the camper van, if I'm not mistaken, like the Mercedes. I think it's called a Sprinter. Ford has one, others have it. And I believe Class C at 14 to 18 miles per gallon, if I'm not mistaken, is the pull behind, like, the hitch and tow kind, like my brother-in-law just bought. So that's my understanding. I'm not an RV expert, but I do know 4 different kinds of RV parks, if you want to chat about that.
Yeah, let's do.
All right. So there's 4 types, and the first one, 4 that I know of, and there's one that's the overnight type. Now, overnight parks would be somewhere you would just stay when you're on the way somewhere. So let's say you're on the way from Kansas City to North Dakota, and you stay at an overnight park along the way. These are, more convenient. They don't have a lot of amenities. It's just a place to park overnight and hook up and, maybe use the bathroom and then go on your way. The other extreme is an extended stay park, and these are permanent placement RV parks where you can put an RV and you can stay there for years or decades. Now, typically these RV parks are covered with RVs that have decks built on. Occasionally they have an addition or a porch built on. And these are places, these are typically in vacation spots. And so that's what we're talking about with extended stay RVs. My cousin actually built an old school bus and turned it into a permanent, vacation RV. Sounds like maybe a little bluegrass or something there, but nothing wrong with that. They were from Kentucky.
I've seen some pretty elaborate bus conversions. So
yeah, no kidding. This was not one of them.
Okay.
Anyway, the third type and the least famous kind is workforce housing. And that's like during the oil boom in North Dakota, they popped up thousands and thousands of RV parks. I mean, RVs popped up in parks and in yards, which is where I stayed in one, in this huge shortage of housing in North Dakota. And then the fourth type, the one I like best, is a destination RV park. And that's either really near a great destination like the Grand Canyon or Zion National Park or Branson, Missouri, or it sometimes is there or becomes the destination. In other words, it's sort of an amusement park. The ones we've invested in have done this. They've added, $2 million water parks. And, maybe a $500,000 lake for swimming and possibly another for fishing. And they have Wibbits. Wibbits is an obstacle course that kids play on the lake. And they rent for about like $17 per hour per kid. And that's like $1,000 an hour at capacity in the summer. So pretty nice value add. They have dog parks. They have, of course, they have internet, good cell service. They might have limited food service. They might have a wedding venue. They have human foosball, something I'd never seen before.
What is that?
Yeah, it's like you stand and you like kick the ball, but you have to stay at your position. It's kind of weird. Okay. Some have those safe trampolines, face painting, t-shirt painting, gem mining, lamping units, patio sites, golf cart rentals. These golf carts, these cheap but cool looking golf carts rent for like $75 a day.
Really? Wow.
Lots and lots of upgrades and lots of potential to make a family happy. I mean, the father and mother could be working on their patio on their laptop and the kids could be playing putt-putt golf, 20 yards away. So it's really fun.
Yeah. Fabulous. So the four different types in terms of investments, which ones produce the best rate of return?
It's sort of like Warren Buffett says, it's not always the return, but sometimes it's buying it right. And so sort of like I said about multifamily, I thought it was the perfect investment till people started paying 20 to 40% more than they were, potentially worth. I can tell you that we really like the last one, the destination RV park. One thing we like about it is it's creating a tremendous barrier to entry. Here's an example. We invested in one about a year ago, $3.5 million acquisition price near Branson, Missouri, but about an $18 million total all-in budget, capital budget, because they added, something like $15 million in amenities. And that included buying the neighboring land to expand. That included a lot of the amenities I just mentioned a minute ago. And so it takes a while to get that cash flowing, maybe 2 years. But when they cash flow, they have tremendous upside. And they've got projections of cash flowing these sometimes in the teens, sometimes in the mid-20s. And that's ongoing cash flow before refinance and before selling. And when those things happen, if they do, it can be a real boon for investors.
Yeah, for sure. All of that sounds well and good, but they're multifamily apartments. They come with their management headaches, but generally you can find competent management organizations that have experience managing these things. And it's just typical in the industry that those kind of things flow with that. Mobile home parks have their own management issues, but RV parks are heavy management issues, particularly when you're talking about destination parks?
Alan, I found this hard to believe. These destination parks have to hire like 100 or more people in the summer or in this high season to keep them running. So it's extremely heavy management, very different from mobile home parks, for example. And so that's another barrier to entry. But if you want to operate one yourself, in my mind, that's a huge downside.
Yeah, particularly, I mean, how many of us have experience doing that? So, yeah.
Right.
So most investors would be wise, of course, not to do their own management. So where do you go to for competent management? It's such a specialized niche. I would think it's going to be challenging to find really competent management.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even considered. I mean, my son has about 1,500 acres here in Southwest Virginia. He buys land. He does various things with it, including, subdividing it or timbering it or, farming it. And I said, hey, you ought to just set up one of these simple RV parks. And he could do that. But to do one of these complex ones, I wouldn't even consider. I can't even imagine. Well, I mean, I don't think there's management companies out there. I imagine if you're part of a group like KOA Parks or what is it, Jellystone, if you're one of those franchisees, you'd probably get some resources in that regard. But again, I can't imagine doing this myself.
Yeah.
I can imagine investing in them, though.
Yeah. Yeah. You do some philanthropy work that is quite interesting, and that has to do with helping trafficking victims. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Alan, I saw a movie in 2015 or 16 called Nefarious. It was put out by Exodus Cry. And I learned from this movie, I went and researched myself afterwards, and I didn't know how horrible and how widespread this was. If you took the record profits, not the average, the record profits of Apple, General Motors, Nike, and Starbucks, combined those together, doubled that number, that's the approximate profits from human trafficking, according to the U.S. State Department. It's horrifying.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's horrifying. It's shocking. And I also found out that, well, I mean, since we've been sitting here talking, Alan, probably several hundred children, several hundred individuals have been trafficked, have either been captured or sold into slavery. Slavery is the worst it's been in world history. And for one, my company would really like to do something to stop it. And so we're giving a portion of our profits to fighting human trafficking. Backing up our commercial real estate fund carefully vets operators. Well, in the same way, we're carefully vetting nonprofits to see who's most effective with their funds. And we want to give them funds. And they go in, they do SWAT team type rescues in association with the local and national police in their country. The one we work with is in Belize and Cambodia. And then they rescue these children, typically ladies, and then they will give them counseling. They'll provide them food, clothing, shelter, job skills, and they'll basically try to give them freedom so that within a year or two, they're able to go and have a hopefully normal life. And so that's a critical part of what we want to do. We don't want to just see them rescued because they often go back to the streets. They don't have anything else to do. But we really want to see them rescued, but also given true freedom.
Well, that's heartbreaking. It's my understanding that, we think, you just mentioned Belize and Cambodia, but it's going on here in the United States, from what I understand. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's tragic.
Yeah, I had no idea it was that lucrative.
Yeah, I have a statistic that it's stunning to me, but I've heard that these traffickers can make up to $500,000 per victim per year. And if you translate that in your mind to what the toll that must take, I have a daughter and a wife who were harmed in this way a few times, and the toll it's taken on them is incredible over decades. But to imagine these girls being taken advantage of, violated maybe a dozen, 2 dozen times a day for years, their lifespan's incredibly short.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
it's tragic.
Yeah. Well, let us move on to more pleasant topics here.
Okay, let's do it.
And tell us, why are people sitting on the sidelines now, and should they be?
Yeah, there's a good reason to sit on cash right now if you can't find deals. I mean, most investors who are trying to find deals themselves, I mean, like I know people are trying desperately to find self-storage facilities right now, just as an example. But the pros are out there. I mean, they have like one company we invest closely with, they have 7 or 8 or 9 people on their team working full time, 40 hours a week each to try to find these self-storage facilities. They're texting, they're emailing, they're calling, they've got inside information on these, assets. And when someone's ready to sell, if they've been called by this one guy or gal, 4 times a year for 4 years straight, they're often going to call them back. In fact, we just got a call from somebody in the St. Louis area and said, hey, you offered me a certain amount of money for my self-storage facility 9 years ago in 2014. Will you still pay me that? Well, self-storage has gone up a lot since then, but his park has deteriorated. So the answer was yes. Well, getting deals like that is not easy for the average investor. And so if you know somebody who can get deals like that, or can vet operators, can vet great deals, it's a great time to invest. In fact, we're raising money to invest right now. But again, you've got to know what you're doing.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Paul, tell our viewers and listeners about your company, how it operates, and how our viewers and listeners can get in touch with you to take advantage of your investment opportunities.
Yeah, so we have a diversified fund. Our goal is to provide diversification across different asset types, geographies, operators, strategies, and of course, properties. And our goal is to provide cash flow and upside. This is for accredited investors only, and that's an SEC rule that we have to follow. And the company is called Wellings Capital, WELLINGS, wellingscapital.com. There's no guarantee that our past results will result in great future results, as everybody knows, but I need to give that disclaimer as I talk about our fund. Like I said, you can get hold of us at wellingscapital.com. If you'd like to get the RV Park special report or any of our other special reports, you can do that at wellingscapital.com/resources.
Paul, it's just been wonderful having you again. As always, a delight to have you as a guest. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lomax. It was great to see you again.
Enlightened investors, don't go yet. I have just a couple of quick requests. You know the drill. Like, share, and subscribe. But we also need your help to build our audience, so please go to your favorite podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating and review. I'll be most grateful. Until next time, prosper and live abundantly.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Estate Investing Abundance, brought to you by Steve Talker Capital, a company working for passionate professionals like you to develop financial independence built on solid, passive real estate investments. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steve Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steve Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures, great and small, flourish abundantly. For resources to develop your financial independence, connect with us at stevetalker.com.